For 3 years, I've been walking past an open space inside the marketplace where my original NTX Vinyl physical shop resides. About a month ago, it finally opened up, I signed the lease, and it's been a ton of work getting it ready to launch. Well, it just did, and I'm super excited to show you how it all came about on this episode, Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl, a small chain of independent record shops in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're not local, but you are in the US, you can shop online at ntxvinyl.com. And of course, would love it if you would subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us across social media on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok as well. So let's talk about what I've gone through over the last month or two to expand one of my NTX Vinyl physical locations. For those of you that don't know, I do not have standalone record shops, meaning I don't have employees and I am not at these physical locations. They are booths inside of a larger marketplace. It's called Painted Tree Marketplace or Painted Tree Boutiques. It's a pretty large company. I think they have 20 or 25 locations, mostly located throughout the southern part of the United States. So I have had a booth in my original location, which is Highland Village, about 30 minutes north of Dallas, where I live. I opened up there originally just over 3 years ago. And pretty much every time I've been there for the last 3 years, I've walked past this one specific booth that just looks perfect. What I mean by that, and perfect, is that I have told the people at Painted Tree, the managers and employees there, like, that's my forever record store. Again, this is the one that's closest by to my house. So all things considered, I will probably always have the Highland Village shop because it's very close by. And I've walked by this and I've told them over and over, like, that's my store. One day, this is going to be my record shop. Well, about a month or so ago, it happened. It became available, signed the lease, and then the work started, right? And so that's where kind of the DIY record shop expansion concept came from, because I thought, you know what, let's document everything I do along the way, from the layout to, painting it, to redoing the floors, to building the shelves, to loading the inventory, to actually launching and kind of relaunching the shop, if you will. And so that's what I want to kind of talk through. Obviously, my circumstances are a little bit unique, but I think a lot of this could apply to anyone that wants to open a record shop, whether it's a standalone shop or in a booth, or maybe it's a pop-up shop. All of these types of things can apply as far as what I've learned along the way over the past couple of years and what I've done over the last month or two, expanding this shop and opening all my shops, right? So I think the first thing I would say, as I thought about going from my pre-existing location, which I'll show you, which was great. Like, I do great business at this Highland Village location. It was already my largest shop. I have about, in the older location, I think I had about maybe 3,000 records, maybe 2,500 or 3,000 records. So significant amount of records that, someone could come in and dig through. Not overwhelming, which is one of the things a lot of people tell me they like about my smaller shops, is that they can get in and out on their lunch break and pick up a few records, and they don't have to spend a whole afternoon, right? So this original shop was already a decent size. I expanded it obviously to a bigger location, but more importantly to a location that was just better suited as a kind of an independent shop. And you'll see what I mean when I show you the photos of it, because it's an actual kind of room as opposed to just a booth with maybe, one or two walls, which is what I was coming from. So as I thought about taking the NTX shop and expanding over to this other location, or for anyone who's thinking about opening a shop, a net new, in any way, shape, or form, the most important thing, or I would say the first thing to think about that really does hold some importance, is the concept or the brand, if you will. A lot of people who have booths in antique malls or record shops, it can be pretty bland. Like, they pick out a name, maybe they design a logo, and that's kind of it. I've been in marketing my whole life, so I'm not built to do that. Like, I don't half-ass anything when it comes to marketing, in case you hadn't noticed. So for me, when I was thinking about, okay, I'm going to move to this other location, which is real close by. Again, I'll show you how close by. It's literally like 20 feet away. So that was a really good thing, is that I wasn't going to lose any customers because they couldn't find the new location, because you literally walk right by it when you're going to the old one, which is nice. But I'm always thinking, like, how can I maintain an aesthetic with the brand? How can I improve upon it so that people feel more comfortable, so that it's a cool place, so people will want to actually come back and visit again and shop for records? And that's all subconsciously very important, whether or not your customers know it. And again, as a marketer, that's something I'm always keeping in mind. So as I moved from my old location to this new expanded location, that was something that that was definitely top of mind. So I was thinking, like, how can I continue to expand upon the brand, make it even cooler, make it feel like a place that's really unique, that's someone that I would want to shop for records. Like, I think that's the biggest thing for me. Whatever I do, whether it's selling online or selling in the physical world, I always think, like, as a customer, as a record collector, because I am one and I've been one for most of my life, like, what would I want to see if I walked into a shop? So that's probably the biggest takeaway at the top level, as I thought of this expansion, and I thought of where the shelves were going to go, and was I going to paint it? Was I going to put up a new sign? Like, all these things that I did, all of that had to do with me thinking like the customer, thinking like, hey, if I was rolling into this place, what would I want to see if I was shopping for records? So that was a big deal for me. I wanted to keep consistency, because NTX Vinyl has a brand. It has kind of an aesthetic and a vibe, I like to think, at least. And all of that I wanted to translate in the new shop, and I really think it does. And you'll see kind of how that came to fruition, right? So I mentioned the space and the location. Obviously, if you're in retail, I've heard it a million times: location, location, location. It's critical, right? So whether you're looking for a standalone shop in a shopping strip, or maybe you're going into a mall scenario, or maybe it's a standalone building, or maybe it's a small little booth in an antique mall or a boutique marketplace, whatever you want to call it, regardless, the location is critical. In this case, like I mentioned, it was close by to my prior location, so that was a no-brainer. I wanted to keep it because I didn't want it to be on the other side of the store, because then people may wander in looking for my booth and not find it, and that would obviously be disappointing. So that was critical, that it stayed nearby, or at least it was a very, very big plus, if you will, that I didn't have to send people to a completely different aisle in the store and confuse people as far as where it's at. Goes without saying that if you're choosing a standalone location is just, absolutely critical. You got to make sure that you've got visibility into how people are going to find you, not only if they drive by, but how they're going to find you online. So there's just a lot of things to consider, and that all really comes at the very beginning. So be mindful of that. Again, if you're opening something net new, or you're expanding something, or you just got an idea and you want to start out, like, consider the location and all the things that that go into that, because that's obviously hugely important. The other thing, again, that ties to the location and the square footage you have, is like, how are you going to map this out? So I'm a very visual person, so I have to take measurements and actually devise a floor plan, if you will, or a schematic of, like, okay, if I'm going to go from this old space to this new space, how many more records am I going to be able to fit? So immediately I'm measuring, and I'm thinking about what types of shelving I'm going to build, how many more records I'm going to be able to have on those shelves, what types of displays am I going to have on the walls, am I going to have room for artwork and signage and all these types of things. So I immediately did a layout on this space. I've done it in the past, honestly, even when the space wasn't available, just because I was curious. And it's allowed me to put, I think, about 1,500 more records in the space, which is fantastic. I can add even more over time. I've got a couple more areas I know I could add some more inventory if needed. But that was very critical, because then if you back into this, so I was thinking, okay, I know my move-in date is here, which was September 1st of 2022, which we just passed. I've got to start building this stuff in advance, right? And so that was one of the first things I did, was the schematic, so I would understand which of these shelves I was going to need to build, what types of shelves, and all those types of things. So that was one of the first things I started on, probably about a month and a half ago. And a lot of the shelving I build comes from IKEA these days. I've built shelves net new. I've bought wood, I've constructed them. I've got some schematics for several different types of shelving units. But the price of wood right now is crazy. And so I can tell you, if you're going to go build something net new out of wood, especially out of any decent type of plywood even, you're going to pay significant amount of money. And when I did the math versus what I can build out of kind of an IKEA hacked shelf, it was really a wash. But I can tell you the process of putting together an IKEA hacked shelf, which I'll show you, way easier than building it net new, because that's what IKEA does. They build things where you can just kind of screw it together. And if you're anchoring them to the walls and you're supporting them with the right legs, which I've done experimentation with and now I have kind of dialed in, it is a huge time saver. So I was able to build, I think I built 4 net new shelves for this expansion alone, and I've got some others planned. I was able to build those in a lot less time than it would have been if I was going to build them net new. And again, the expense was about the same, maybe even a little less, again, because of the price of wood right now. So building the shelves was a big part of it. Additional shelves, I could say. And then you also have to back into the inventory. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to put in X number of new shelves, which is going to give me X number of new bins. And I know how many records fit in each bin. How am I going to fill that, right? I've got to have inventory. So immediately I have to start pricing pre-owned inventory in anticipation of this move. And then I've got to start buying new inventory in anticipation of this move. Now, I've mentioned this a lot on my channel when it comes to like logistics of owning a record store, but a lot of that comes down to cash flow. Like how much cash can I put out to buy new records or to get pre-owned records acquired and then priced? And how long can I sit on that before I got to really start moving? So I couldn't do it many months out because that's a lot of records to sit on. So again, all of this really transpired over the course of the last month, and I had to get a ton of inventory set up and organized and ready to be loaded in when it was launched. So again, the amount of new square footage, the amount of shelving, and the amount of inventory are all tightly tied together, and I had to kind of think through that as I thought about this expansion and thought about this build. Talked a lot about the shelves and the flooring. The shelves and the inventory. The flooring was another big part on this one. I could have half-assed it. I could have just gone in and used the pre-existing flooring. It's kind of worn out looking, kind of like subfloor type stuff. But again, this is going to be my forever home. I guarantee you. I would be shocked if I ever don't have this location in particular. So I knew I wanted to do it right. So I did some nice stick-on vinyl flooring, which these days is pretty cool and pretty easy. It was laborsome, I will tell you. It goes down easy, but when you get into the part of like cutting around all of the corners and around all of the edges, which have to be kind of custom because nothing ever fits perfect, that was a lot of work. So a lot of hours were spent laying the custom flooring in addition to the painting. The painting went in first, of course. And luckily, I've got a bunch of people who help me, including my wife and my kids and some buddies who help me on a lot of different projects, whether it be pricing or online stuff, and in this case, manual labor painting. So we went in and we painted the whole thing. We painted it our brand colors, which is blue and black and gray. And then we laid the flooring, which is a nice gray color. So I was really excited with how the branding all came out and what the vibe looked like. The other part that was really important to me was signage. Again, I know I'm going to be at this place for a long time. I had some decent signage at the pre-existing location and in my other shops. I've got like a foam board sign that looks like a record, and I usually have some records displayed, but I wanted to do something a little more permanent, a little more substantial in this one. So I had a custom made sign constructed by a local guy who does a lot of woodwork. And he's actually the one who builds record crates for me. So I have custom record crates that I'll have in stock from time to time with the NTX Vinyl logo on them, which are really cool. I went to him and he has this amazing laser saw and cut this whole sign out, which is like a die cut sign of the logo. But he didn't just cut one of them and I didn't just stick it on the wall. He actually did several layers of them. So it's actually standing out from the wall and gives a really cool effect. So I was super excited with how the sign came out. I painted it myself. along with my wife and my kids again. And then my son Ben came and helped me actually assemble it and put it up, and then did touch up around it. So that was one of the coolest parts of the shop, in my opinion, just because I think it's nice and big and bold. And then all the photos I take of the shop and all the photos that other people take when they're in the shop, my logo's nice and big and always there in the background. So again, from a branding perspective, it's really important. So super excited about that. Um, after we got the painting and the floor and the signage done and all of the lead shelves. So the lead shelves are from IKEA as well. Same thing. You can build lead shelves a lot cheaper. These are basically the thin kind of rails that a single album will sit on. I've got those all around the shop. You can build those pretty easily, but again, the cost of wood, the labor to paint them and cut them and get them all right, get them all level with straight wood and all that. Like, I chose just to go to IKEA and buy theirs, which they cost about, I think, $15 or so each. They've gone up a little bit in price, but they're really nice and they go up super fast. So a lot of it has to do with convenience and making sure I spend my time in the places where I really need to, versus spending a few more dollars. So the lead shelves got up. Then it came down to, okay, I've got to move everything. The biggest part of the job is moving the records. And so I had to move all of the records out of the shelves from the pre-existing shop, then move all of the shelving over, and then all of the records in, and then all of the new records that I had purchased and had priced had to come and get integrated. So that was a big process. And luckily I have, again, a lot of good friends and people who really support what I do. So that was an entire night of probably 4 to 5 hours just moving everything and then getting it all alphabetized again and integrating all that new inventory. It was fun though, because that's when you really started to see it come to fruition. Not until you've got all the records in there do you really see what it's going to look like. And it did turn out pretty much exactly how I had hoped. My hope was that you would just see records, meaning I painted the walls black on the sides specifically because I knew that the color of all the records is what was going to stand out. Then the back wall is where the logo sits is blue, which is kind of a branding thing, obviously, with the white logo. So the idea for me was that you'd only see the blue with the white logo, and then you just see the color of the records. And I think it really worked well, again, with the flooring and the black walls and the big wall in the background. Just super excited about how it turned out. So the last piece was like, okay, this is a big deal for me. This is a big deal for NTX. Expanding to this location, which in my opinion is my permanent location here in Highland Village, then you kind of got to make an event of it, right? And so Labor Day was the perfect time to move. Labor Day is a really big shopping holiday, if you will. People have time off. Most record stores, mine included, do some sort of sale or event on most holiday weekends, July 4th, Labor Day, Memorial Day, whatever it may be. So for it landed on Labor Day, which was great, and was able to do kind of a launch event where a lot of people came to check it out. So that was super successful, and I think cannot be understated. I mean, I could have just kind of moved everything and posted a photo of it, but that's not in my blood to do that. Like, I've got to make an event of it. I've got to make a thing of it because I think it warrants it. I'm that excited about it and I love it that much, and I just really want that to follow through and people to understand that. And I can tell you it worked. The feedback and the response from everybody who came just throughout that long weekend when the shop fully opened after the expansion was absolutely overwhelming. Sold a ton of records and had so many people message and post photos on social media about the new shop. I'm still getting messages, and as customers discover that I've moved over time, I'm sure that'll continue. And so I'm just very thankful that I have a customer base of people who support what I do and who believe in the concept of NTX and believe in the fact that vinyl's here to stay, because that's what I'm betting on. And so it's been a huge amount of work, but the payoff has been huge, and I'm really excited that for the long term, this is going to be the spot in my local area of Highland Village. I'm hopeful to replicate this type of expansion in my other locations, which are also in the DFW Metroplex, but we'll see. I'm waiting on that right location, waiting on the right timing. It's a lot of it. So all those things really played into this. The timing was right. The space became available. I had the time to deal with it. I had enough cash flow to actually support the inventory and all those types of things. I had the right team in place, of friends and family to help me do it all. So it's just a lot of moving pieces. So hopefully again, I have a very, I think, unique situation in what I've built with NTX and what these physical shops are and how they kind of tie into the bigger picture. But hopefully there's some learnings here for anybody who's aspiring to open a shop or improve a shop or expand a shop, whether it's standalone, whether it's a booth, whatever it may be. Hopefully there's some things here that were beneficial. I know this was a video I was excited to make just because I have all these photos and the time-lapse videos that I've been showing you along the way. I took all of those purposefully in anticipation of being able to kind of have this discussion with you or shoot this video. So hopefully that was entertaining. I'm super proud of it. I know from all the feedback I've heard from customers that they're loving it. And so I'm just going to continue to make improvements over time and keep the inventory flowing. And hopefully this NTX Vinyl thing will continue to flourish in the future. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, I would love to hear them. As usual, stick around for more content on the channel. This has been another episode of Talking About Records. We will see you again next time.